Welcome to the Your Life Unfiltered podcast with your hosts, Kitsu Kothari and Deepam Jain. In this podcast, we dig deep into the life experiences of our guests to connect the dots between their early experiences and what they're doing today. Today, we have special guest Deven Patel. Deven, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Deven Patel. I'm a current medical student as well as a aspiring filmmaker and content creator.
Great to have you, Deven. Thanks for joining us today. Before we talk about what you're doing today, could you take us a few years back and tap into your early childhood, early upbringing, and some of the experiences that you had, the striking experiences that really shaped your thought process into the person that you're doing today? Just any kind of motivations or inspirations. Talk to us a little bit more about that, and we'll go from there.
Of course. And thank you for having me. So I've pretty much been in Southern California my whole life, kind of born and raised. And I grew up in Bakersfield, which is a little more north of Southern California. But anyway, so I grew up here, and at an early age, I became very interested in storytelling, mainly because that was kind of my way of relating to the world. I felt that the more stories you learn of different people from different backgrounds, different experiences, different circumstances, the more connected you become with others, and the more comfortable you feel in your own life, but also the more comfortable you can make others around you. And kind of my whole life, I feel like so far, has kind of been operating around that principle. And then I choose to exercise my journey of doing that in different ways, but that's always kind of been the thing that I've been drawn to. So I grew up in Orange County. There weren't a lot of other, kids from my background who were of like a South Asian background or that sort of thing. So I always got really interested in learning the stories of people who didn't grow up in kind of a similar way I did. And through doing that, I participated in a lot of different activities like Boy Scouts of America, got involved in like journalism and all kinds of different things like that. And all of that kind of just fostered my desire to learn as much as I can about the people around me. And then, growing up, I was also drawn towards medicine because that was kind of, psychiatry in particular was very similar to that in the sense that it's trying to learn as much as you can about people at their most vulnerable state and helping people, not just learning their story, but also helping them to kind of continue their story in a healthier way, in ways that they might not have earlier considered. So that's kind of where my, passion for that kind of began.
That is really interesting because I'm actually connecting the dots here, right? And so You had a passion for storytelling, you mentioned. You had a passion for learning about the stories of people. Yeah. And I'm going to go on a limb here, but I'm going to assume that some of the stuff that you learned through storytelling and learning about other people's stories, it probably makes its way into your film stuff, right?
Definitely. I feel like one of the great things films can do, like an hour and a half movie or even a TV show, is it can show you the life of someone you never would have considered, someone you might have, passed by on the street and not really thought twice about. And it can really bring you into their shoes, and it can make you realize that what they feel is similar to you, but their life might be completely different. And that allows you to kind of have greater empathy and understand their feelings, but also acknowledge that their experiences might be very different. So there might be a big learning curve, a learning process to be able to even comment on their life and be able to have the respect for their background and their circumstances. But when you kind of do that work, and movies help audiences to kind of do that work and get into the shoes of people who might not be similar to them. And then it allows you kind of to communicate on the same emotional level, like the same emotional language. So you can kind of grow together, but also respect that their experiences might be very different than yours. And you can do that without minimalizing, I think that's a word, their experiences. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why I like storytelling so much. And I think film is just one really great way to do that. Or at least it's, in my eyes, the most accessible for me in terms of what I like.
Yes, that's amazing. And since you're also into content creation, I have a feeling that the storytelling is done, but in a very compressed way when it comes to the content creation, right? Because like a lot of skits and stuff you put out, there's still storytelling there too. But I guess it's just, how do you tell the story in like 90 seconds or less, I guess?
Right. Okay, yes, I can speak on that. So, so I started writing scripts like probably 10 years ago, like when I was in high school. And then a lot of them like weren't so good. People read them, they're like, what is this? Because I didn't understand the form of how to write. And then I wrote a bunch more. And then finally I started writing at a professional enough level where I could submit it to contests and like get placements and that get feedback and that kind of thing. And then I started making short films so I could exercise my ability, not just to write a script, but also to like direct it and, create it. And so I did that. I made a bunch of short films. But then one thing I noticed when I was making the short films, I was really enjoying it, but I realized it's really tough to get people to watch like your 5 to 7 to 10 minute small movie on YouTube if you don't have like, like a star in it or you're not like a name or whatever. So, and that's fine. I enjoy the process of creating, but I also like enjoy the process of trying to reach people to watch it, to consume whatever you've created. So then I noticed that content was getting like really popular, especially around COVID. Everybody was watching content. It was like all about the 15-second, 20-second thing. So then so like around mid 2020, like August 2020, I like started making content. I would just make like little comedic skits kind of thing by myself, and then and I did that, and then around that time I also started med school. So then I would make like some medical stuff too, and I would just kind of make whatever I thought of, very sporadically, not that regular. And then earlier this year in 2022, so like well over a year of doing this without much, I guess, results in terms of people watching. This year I started to make like slightly different stuff, and then that kind of picked up. So this past year, for the most part, I've learned a lot in terms of how to communicate to audiences better in a way that kind of captivates their attention more so. And I'm still learning, of course, but yeah, so that's kind of been the process of that. So I started doing content creation as a way to exercise my ability to tell a story, like you were saying, but in a much smaller period of time. And it's fun to do that, right? Because in a movie, you're like given an hour and a half, you could be slow, you can watch someone like put their shoes on, and it can be an impactful moment. But in a content, if you take like 5 seconds too long, people will just scroll away. So it's a very different, so it's like a very different style of I guess, storytelling. So I like it. It's fun. But that's kind of why I started doing it. Yeah.
I was gonna say, it gets you hyper focused. Like you have to tell the entire story in a limited time frame. So like every second counts. I totally get it.
Right. And there's because more people watch content, there's more eyes on it too. So you have to learn, how can I communicate something in a way that makes sense, that isn't going to offend or marginalize any one group of people, and can also effectively portray whatever message. If it's like, if it has like a message, or you're trying to spread knowledge or understanding or whatnot, how can I do that in like an effective way where you don't reduce it to like a joke or something? Because I feel like a lot of content, it's easy to just, haha, it's funny. But to try to make something that's more impactful in a short period of time is like the fun part of it, I think. And it's like,
I totally get it. Because like, if I was to say exactly what you're saying in like specific words, I would say for content to succeed, it has to be relevant. It has to be timely. It has to be novel. Because like for content to really trend, it has to be something they haven't seen before. That's when you get the super viral types of content. And then there's one other one that I can't think of off the top of my head. So relevant, timely, impactful, and I don't know. It's maybe humorous. Humorous definitely helps a lot too. For sure.
Right. Relevant, timely.
Yeah,
I agree.
So Deven, that's a nice segue into our next question, which is really, what's your process of coming up with so many? You come up with so many unique and different ideas, and I think personally your content is really, really high quality. It's just all the videos, just next level. How do you kind of keep coming with such ideas? What's your process, and how do you not get influenced by other content creators out there?
Good point.
Because that's also something very easy.
Right. And thank you for watching. I appreciate both of you, inviting me to do this. So about the process, it's basically whenever I have an idea, usually I never like sit down and like say, all right, I'm going to think of ideas. It's just, I'm going through my day-to-day life. If I'm at school or training in the hospital, I'm seeing patients. If I'm with friends, we're just talking, hanging out, whatnot. I'll have like an idea, like, oh, like that's kind of interesting. And then I'll write it into my phone and like my notes app. And then like once a month, I'll pull out that notes app, and it's usually a mess. There's like a bunch of new notes, and I'll spend a couple hours like sorting through it. And it's like a ton of like random ideas. A lot of them don't even make sense anymore, but the ones that are good, I'll put onto like a new page that has like just the good ones from like this month. And then I'll take all those ideas, and then I've been doing it like pretty regularly. So it's not too hard for me to, once I have the ideas, I can really quickly come up with like 3 tiny little scenes that would develop that. Like if it's like a mental health topic,
I see.
I can 3 little scenes of dialogue that will develop that idea. If it's like comedy, 3 little things that will build to like hopefully a funny moment at the end. And then I'll write a bunch of those. I'll have like a ton of skits on a Google Doc, like written out. And then I'll meet up with either like another content friend. I'm like an hour from LA in Southern California. So I'll meet up with like a friend on like a weekend or something, and we'll just spend the day and we'll make like a bunch. Or if I go home like once a month and I see my dad, so I make a lot of stuff with him now. So then I'll go home and we'll make a bunch of stuff. And then I basically have the content on my phone, and then I'll like every day I'll like edit one of them. It doesn't take that long. So I'll edit like one and then I'll post that one that day. And then it's kind of, I tried to post daily. I've taken a little break recently, but I have like a big backlog of stuff. So I'll be, once I edit it, I'll be posting daily again. But that's basically the process. Yeah. So it's kind of, it's not like an everyday thing in terms of ideas. That's like a once a month kind of thing. And then the only thing that I have to do more often is like the editing. But I'm trying to get to a place where I can just edit a bunch and just have a bunch ready to go. But yeah.
Okay, so what you described to me reminds me a lot of the scene in the movie 8 Mile, where Eminem is like writing down notes after listening to music. That's what that reminded me of. We were talking about writing it into the Notes app and then filtering it. So that was interesting parallel that I thought of there.
Right, and kind of like that. It's always fun when you write it down in the moment, because then like later when you look at it, sometimes you can't even relate to it, and it's cool that you're able to. When you are able to relate to it, it's like, oh wow, it kind of takes you back to the moment when you thought of it, and then like even if you're in a different mental headspace now, you can kind of re-access what you were feeling at that time. So that's always like really
that makes
like
sense.
fun.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think when you mention like Eminem, sometimes when you listen to a song, like let's say you're like sad at a point in your life and you like really get into a song, and then you hear it like 5 years later, it always like takes you back to like that moment and how you're feeling then.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really cool how you can like attach an emotion to something and then kind of forget about it, and then it can like pull you right back in. So yeah, but
that's cool. So it's like a time machine. It's almost like
a
content time machine, right? It's
right.
like you listen or watch a piece of content you've created in the past, and then it takes you back to that particular moment. So it's almost like you're reliving that moment or that feeling you were having when you made that. That's cool.
Right. Even whether you make it or you watch, like sometimes I'll see like an old Vine, like those go around, and then I'm like, I remember back in like college when I was watching this. This is like so funny. It still is funny, but yeah. To answer your earlier question with how do I not get influenced? I think how do I get influenced and not influenced by other content was the question, right? So for that, I don't watch a ton of content actually, not because I don't want to. I enjoy it. It's just I guess time is I'm still working on like time management and having enough time to do everything. So I haven't been consuming a ton of content or films even recently, but for me, basically, it's I don't really do a lot of like trends or whatnot, mainly just because I don't know how. Like I would have to practice to learn how to do that. But I always just like creating whatever idea I have, and then even if it doesn't relate to whatever's popular at the time, and then just kind of putting it out there. And the thing that influences me usually is when I put something out and I see how it does, I see people's comments. That's kind of what influences me for when I have another idea. How do I want to better develop this so that I learn from whatever I tried earlier, and then I can communicate in a better way. But sometimes whenever I do watch content, if someone has like a really good idea, that'll make me want to attempt the same thing through my own kind of lens. But yeah.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. I was just curious as you were explaining your process, whether you've kind of experimented with some of the ideas, like does humor work better? Or I know you do different types of videos, not just humor, like you do mental health stuff, you do also other types of stuff. So I was just, is there any specific idea that kind of hits the most or gets the most views, or is it just, algorithm that's just doing the work?
It's for the most part, a lot of times it's random. Like you can't predict what's going to like work or not, but then there's certain types of like relationship support videos that seem to always like hit people, because I think that's like a relevant topic nowadays. Some comedy ones, like if it's like kind of raunchy comedy, but like still PG, those usually people like have a good laugh at that. And then, but sometimes you think you have something that's funny or that will be relevant, and just like nobody watches it, and then you learn, right? So yeah, but I try to keep it balanced. I try to do like one mental health, one comedy, one maybe South Asian video, one medical humor video. And that kind of keeps me thinking too, because I'm kind of always shifting gears a little bit. So it kind of keeps me working, so I don't like fall into like complacency, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
So, speaking of South Asian content, I feel free to disagree, you guys, with me. I actually grew up in India, not in the US. I feel the South Asian culture or the content recently became cooler than it used to be like a few years ago. What do you think? What do you think led to that? And obviously, it's a good thing for our culture overall. But what influences do you think kind of led to that happening?
I totally agree.
How do you think it can grow?
It's kind of adding to what you said. So like in 2013, like I remember like that's like 10 years ago coming up. I remember like, there wasn't in media, there wasn't, obviously, I think Vine was around then, but there wasn't like on TV and movies, there was very little talk about like South Asian anything, right? There was like once in a while you'd see like the Simpsons go to India, or That's So Raven. There's I don't think I was on that show, but it was very rare. It was very rare. And then, and then now it seems like so cool, right? There's so many people interested in the culture. It's like reflected in such a positive way. People are learning that there's a bunch of different like cultures within India, right? It's not just all Hindi speakers, right? So that's been amazing to see. And I think that kind of like what you were mentioning, I think with like social media in particular, that kind of acts as like a mini storyteller, like you were saying, like both of you were saying. So I think by so many people putting their own stories into social media, and so many people consuming it, it's like creating a new avenue for like respect for not just South Asian culture, but all of the different cultures that don't really get seen. A lot of different groups of people that have very important stories that weren't really even noticed before, And I think the more that people do it, the more other people want to jump in and say, oh, I've also got something to say. And with so many people sharing their stories and like creating, it's really just, I guess this demographic's always been there, but now it's just making people feel like, oh, wow, my story matters too. And then they're going and telling it. And everyone has the power to do it, right? Because you just need a phone and you can create anything, right? So,
The barrier to entry has definitely been reduced, which is great.
Right.
It's fantastic. Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about what platforms you're currently focusing on? Because I imagine there's quite a few, right? With all the different shifting of social media platforms that's been going on. Right.
There's so many. Everyone has like a shorts or some kind of reels or whatnot, right? So it's so I started with I think I started with Instagram, and then I also got on TikTok. And then so Instagram and TikTok is kind of what I focused on. I would put up the same things on both, same titles, same music, if they both had like the same music available. And then I would just release them on there. And then YouTube Shorts came out, so I started putting up my stuff on there as well. And then mainly now I'm just focusing on Instagram, TikTok, and then YouTube Shorts. And all three, I feel like sometimes you'll put a video on one and it'll do really well on one platform and it won't on the other. Or one will not do so good on TikTok, but YouTube will really like it. So it's cool. It's a lot of work, I guess, to put it up 3 times, but but it's nice to be able to connect to people. So it's worth it. But yeah.
Well, I have one more for you if you're interested in checking it out. Amazon Inspire. It just released like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's supposed to be a short form. Yeah, it's really new, brand new. It's like hot off the press. Like it's the same concept, short-term video, as Amazon's answer to short-form video content creation.
Amazon Inspire.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to check that out. Thank you for telling me. Hopefully I can get on that
I mean,
early.
No one knows about it yet. I found out because I just saw an article about it, and I looked at the date it was released, and it was like December 14th or something like that. So it was like really new.
Okay.
That's always the best time to join, though, when it's that early. Because you have no competition. Whoever is on that platform is like 100% of them are going to see your content. I'm excited.
Right. That's true. I'm going to get on that. Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And speaking of which, Deepa, we got to be putting all of our clips of these future podcast episodes onto Amazon
Inspire. Okay.
You got to take advantage of that too.
That's facts.
I think we need some sort of a software or something. You have it for like Spotify where you could just click one push button and it'll pop. Yeah, it's available everywhere, like something like that.
That would be so nice. That would be so nice.
Hey, bro, you do live in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a tech startup idea right there.
Let me
exist.
Let me see what I can do once I get back.
Okay, that's cool. So a lot of platforms still. Interesting. Is there any one in particular that you're seeing the most promise in?
I feel like they're all growing at a pretty good rate. They're all a little different, I think. I think the TikTok community might be a little bit younger, like in terms of age, because I feel like on Instagram, there's definitely a lot of people that message that are like, like moms or dads. There's also like young people too. So there's like a on Instagram, it feels like a much wider age range, and also like location range, because people will be reaching out from like Europe or India or South America or whatnot. And then on TikTok, I feel like it's very kind of more American. But again, that's just my guess. But yeah, so I like it because a lot of times people react differently to things, like to the same video. There'll be very different reactions. And then YouTube, for the most part, I can't really tell too much yet about that audience. I think I need to post a lot more of my older stuff on there to kind of build that audience and whatnot, and connect on there.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
What kind of, are you doing any call to actions to like convert traffic from one platform to another? Or
you know what I used to do? Right. So I would see that was like one of the best ways to grow. So at the end, like at the last like 3 seconds of the videos, like earlier this year, I would say like follow for, and then like dash and like some other similar related video that I was planning to make. Or I would write like follow for part 2, and then like some other kind of thing. But I think it helped convert more followers. I don't do that anymore, but I did then. But then sometimes people would get upset because they'd be like, hey, because the next video that I would post wouldn't necessarily be like a part 2, it'd be some other unrelated. Because I usually just, they're all different, right? So they'd be like, hey, like where's like the part 2? And even if I was going to release it like a week later, sometimes people wouldn't be too happy about that. So I was like, I'll stop saying the part 2 thing. And I'll still release it, but that way I'm not like bound to any particular order of stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. I can definitely see someone getting frustrated with seeing expecting a part 2 and not seeing it.
But it's nice though. It's like, oh wow, they actually cared to see something I made. So that's
Yeah. Speaking of reactions, Deven, I'm sure people reach out to you all the time about different things, just reacting to your videos and stuff like that. Any striking reactions? Somebody reached out with their own journey. They share like some like pretty kind of personal detail with you, which really helped them and so on, like something along those lines that really kind of stuck out with you?
Yeah. So I guess kind of depending on the type of video, like if I make like a mental health one, or like a kind of a healthy relationship support style video, those ones usually sometimes people reply like, hey, thank you for making this. I went through so-and-so, or this was kind of my journey. Really appreciate you saying this. And then they'll kind of want to have a conversation, not to ask me for like advice, but just to kind of, share their story. And I think I think it can be alleviating for a lot of people to just like verbally just share what they've been through, because then they've kind of shared that maybe pain that they've had with someone else. And then, and I feel like that's one of the real benefits of social media. There's a lot of, I guess, downsides to it too, but being able to reach out and kind of, share something that you've held in for a long time with someone who is willing to listen and is curious about it too, is like nice. And then outside of that, if I make like a video with my dad or something, a lot of times people will comment like, oh, like, I really love these kinds of reminds me of my relationship with my mom or dad who might have passed away or might still be around. And then they'll kind of, and you'll kind of have like a nice, like, short human moment with someone. And then, and it's really cool because, on Instagram, TikTok, it's just like usernames and people, commenting things that kind of sound similar. But then when someone reaches out and, shares that, or you share something, it's like it feels a lot more like a community. So that's why I like it. Right. So that's why I try to make I'm trying to make more like more serious emotional things, not to like evoke an emotional response, but just to talk about things that you don't normally see on social media. Because like you were saying, it's a lot of everything is kind of comedic. So trying to make things that don't even have any bit of comedy, it feels a little weird to see on social media, but I feel like it can also get a lot of cool conversations started,
Yeah, well, see, like that's exactly what I was saying. It's like there's more than one trigger, right? You have comedy and humor as one. You have relevance. So if it's something that's relatable to someone, that's also impactful. Then there is, what's the other one I mentioned? Novel. So if it's something people haven't seen before.
Right.
That
Novel and timely.
And then timely. Like if you're on trend with something, that helps.
Right. Yeah. And especially your videos, Deven, which again, as I said before, I really enjoy that. They're like subtle humor. It's like not obvious. You just have to kind of read between the lines sometimes. And, some like Sister Narky comment in the end by her father or something, depending on the video.
Those are always funny. Those are
sarcastic commentary. Like that's definitely something like I would say definitely novel and not something that a lot of people pursue. outside of basically Instagram, any kind of YouTube creators that you follow? I know we talked about content, you kind of not getting influenced by other influencers, but just, not right now, but maybe let's say in the past, did you used to follow any kind of big YouTube creators that really help you in kind of influence?
So on YouTube Shorts, I remember before I started posting, I'd always watch this guy's. He's really popular. His name's Adam W. He's like makes like really funny videos, and I learned so much by watching his. I don't necessarily make similar stuff, but I learn a lot because his is he just escalates so much. They're all like very, very funny, and it's just like insane situations. And I have a couple other friends that make that similar kind of stuff, like comedy.
Got it.
So then I always enjoy hearing them talk about like Adam W stuff and kind of like what they learned from it too, because I feel like he's a master at it. So it's fun to even though I might not be making something similar, when I see someone who's really engaged with what they're doing and like doing an amazing job at it, you can even learn, even though it's not what you're doing. So he was one that I really enjoyed watching. And yeah, I'd say he was probably one of the big ones that I would watch then. And then King Bach is also really funny. He was from back in the Vine days. So I see a lot of his stuff, and it's cool to see some of these creators who've been doing it for like almost a decade to see kind of their style evolve,
Yeah. King Batch is hilarious, and he also got he got some acting gigs out of it too. Like he was in like the Babysitter movies.
Right. Yeah, and he does stand up and everything.
Oh, I didn't know that. He does stand up too?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He's so funny. Cool. And then I also follow some like mental health ones too. Like there's a resident doctor named Dr. Jake Goodman. He's a psychiatrist, but he posts a lot of stuff to kind of break down the stigma of mental illness, but also even like physicians dealing with their own mental health and like well-being and kind of looking after themselves. So that's another creator who I really enjoy.
Nice.
Wow. That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, Deven, what is one myth that you would like to bust about content creation, number one, and also medicine, because you're in two disciplines.
Right.
And film.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll start with content creation, right? So one thing that I hear a lot of people say is like, oh, they really want to get into it, but then they're kind of afraid to do it because, what if no one watches? What if people watch and like make fun of me? What if, anything can happen, right? When you open yourself up to the world like that. But then I'd say like one myth about it is there's so many videos that come out every day or pictures or whatnot that even if you put something out and you feel embarrassed by it later, like you don't have to like, not stop doing it, right? I feel like the journey towards self-expression will always involve a lot of vulnerability and also kind of like rejection, right? People might not like what you're doing. They might not be interested in your story, but as you keep doing it, you'll get better at it. You'll get more comfortable with seeing yourself do this thing. And then you'll also find the people that do relate to like what it is you're doing. Right. So I feel like anyone can create content, become good at it and, build an audience and everything. It's just a matter of doing it and sticking to it and knowing that like it might be tough in the beginning, but it'll start to feel a lot more natural. And as it feels more natural, you'll be able to think in ways of expressing yourself that you previously might not have even considered. That's like one of the big myths. And then another myth is that it's super easy. It can be easy, but it does like take time and it does take work to like learn and get better at it and be disciplined enough to keep at some regular basis putting out stuff. And then I'll move into medicine. So one, I guess, myth with that is like sometimes people will say if you pursue a career in medicine, you can't do anything else. And I understand the basis of that because you are working like, up to 10 to 12 to maybe longer shifts, 5 to 6 days a week. You're very busy when you're at the hospital. Obviously you can't be doing other stuff. You're zoned in, you're focused on the patients. How can we, give the best care? How can we, attest to everything they need? But then it is nice to have, an outlet that might not even be medicine related. So I feel like for a lot of people in that field, they do have other pursuits, other hobbies, whether they're in creation or anything. I think that's one of the myths. And a lot of times when you meet other physicians, they don't talk about like work. They're talking about like, oh, did you see the game? I'm going to check out this new restaurant. I'm going to paint this thing. I just got my easel, like that kind of stuff. So you sometimes forget when you see someone who's like a businessman or a doctor or whatever, you forget that they have a whole human side too. But again, it is a lot of work, but there is a whole side of it to like the more human side of it, where there is a lot of creation and expression to that too. And then in terms of filmmaking, obviously I'm still still have a lot to learn in that field. But I think one of the things is with filmmaking is it's a long journey, as long or longer than like the doctor journey, because you'll write a lot of stuff or whatever if you're producing, if you're writing, if you're acting, whatever, you'll do a lot of things that might not give you any reward, that might not be that financially, be that audience wise, but you'll continue to get better at it, and you'll continue to learn how you want to tell your story or someone else's story more. You'll learn how to do it better, and you'll get more comfortable as like an artist or a storyteller. So then I think one of the myths is if you don't like find success right away, however you define that it's not going to happen. I think with filmmaking in particular, you have to really stick to it. You have to put in the time, and then and you just keep doing it, and you don't have any expectation of I need to make money doing this, I need to do this, doing this, whatnot. And then hopefully one day you'll be able to see yourself storytelling at that level that you hoped when you started the journey. So that's something I remind myself of, and I'm not in any rush to make like my first feature film, but it is something that I'm like working towards. But since I stay patient with it, and I also stay consistent with it, I feel good about it. And I also see myself pushing myself to rewrite things, to get better at it, to think in ways that I didn't before. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
So would you ever create a film about your own life?
I don't think my own life is like particularly that interesting, but if something happens to me that happens to be like crazy, then
I'm just putting that out there because maybe not now, right? But like down the road, because like you could talk about exactly the stuff you're telling us about, the foray into medicine, the foray into content creation, the foray into filmmaking, and then you can talk about how. And I'm imagining at some point you're going to find a way to connect all three together, right? And then you tell a story about that.
Right. Thank you for saying that, actually, because now that you mention that, I do a lot of times find hard sometimes to relate to people, not to like people, but like specifically like when I'm like, let's say we all finish our exams, like me and the med school friends, then they're all going to go like hang out and chill, and then I'm going to go work really hard on some content or some film thing. So sometimes I feel like it's hard to relate in the sense that I'm trying to pursue multiple things that like take a lot of time, a lot of effort to grow in. But then I like what you said about that in the sense that it would be cool, like later on, once I've figured out more of this journey and I've come further on it, to kind of share that with people, because I think there's a thing that a lot of people feel that, you can only kind of do one or two things in life. Like you have to just focus on those, and obviously you have to focus on it and dedicate enough time to something. But I think it's possible for people to do multiple things like you're kind of alluding to. So that is something that I definitely would. I think it's inspiring, because you see a lot of like people who are like new moms who are also in med school. So they're raising their child who was just born, but they're also a doctor, right? There's people who like maybe become a homemaker for a couple of years, and then they decide to go into acting or something, right? And there's so much potential for people doing a lot of really cool, awesome things. And I think sometimes we limit ourselves because we think we're only allowed or supposed to do one or two things. So thank you for saying that. And that is actually, as I come further in this journey, I would like to talk more about that and kind of share that with other people. So people who feel like, oh, okay, well, it's too late for me to start this. This is going to be too hard. I can't do this kind of thing. You realize that a lot of that, we just say it to keep ourselves down, but there really is potential to do those things and excel in them. And life's long too.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Right. So there's always time to get into anything that you hoped to do.
Yeah. You can also turn into like a docu-series too. It's like your story and like some of your close friends' story if they're doing something similar, right? Other people that have interest story turn into a whole docu-series or something.
Right. Yeah. That would be awesome. I feel like you, both of you were saying earlier, the more people that share their story, the more you feel like you're doing a good job as a human, as whatever other occupations you do. And it kind of inspires everybody. And it's like a cycle of everyone just coming closer. So it's nice.
Yeah. And that's one of our Ketul and my goal as well, to bring out people's stories, kind of the journey that they've taken to get to where they are and kind of what's coming next and so on. So, and this is why it's a different form of storytelling, as you already know, right? So it's just a long form content, but that's one of our goals as well, because we are also really curious to learn about people's like inspirations, motivations, and just, why they do what they do, and, and so on and so forth. So
maybe one day we'll have a collaboration with Deven called the Your Life Unfiltered docuseries.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Right, we dig into the stories of different guests that we brought on and like learn about all their stories in like a very, very engaging way. So,
right, and you get the time span also, so you can see how they grew.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
That's interesting. Like, wow.
How they, what their story was in 2022, and then like maybe bring on like some really engaging guests from the past, like 3 years from now, and like see how it changed 3 years from now. That'd be pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Once Deven graduated from the master's program, the medicine program.
Yeah. We'll do it.
What happens then?
Yeah.
We premiere it on Amazon Inspire, just to inspire everybody.
After Deven becomes the #1 content creator on Amazon Inspire, we'll have another session.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
All right, so Deven, as the name suggests, rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind. Let me know you're ready, and we just jump right in.
Let's go for it.
All right. Let's start with an easy one. Tea or coffee?
Can I say neither? I actually don't drink coffee or tea.
Oh, you don't? Oh, wow.
Tea, no caffeine.
I never started the caffeine journey, so I just I don't want to start because I feel like I'll just get hooked on it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Look
So I'm also team no caffeine. So I like
awesome.
it.
Yeah. Right. You just get enough sleep and get through the day. Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That brings me to our next question. Morning person or night owl?
Night owl, but I wish I was a morning person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not bad. What's your favorite comfort food?
Bean and cheese burrito.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Classic.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your biggest pet peeve?
When I show up late to things.
Wait,
Which
your
is-
own pet peeve.
Yeah.
Your own pet peeve.
Yeah.
I was expecting to see when someone else comes late, but you said when you
No.
come
It's okay.
late.
It's okay if they're late. I'm trying to always get better at showing up on time. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite virtue in others?
Their understanding. Their ability to look at,
empathy or just was that empathy?
The ability of people to have a lot of negative experiences, but still be able to bring their positivity to others.
Oh, so almost like resilience combined with positivity.
Yeah, because a lot of times, this is kind of an extended answer, but a lot of times you'll be in the same situation as someone, it's not going well, you're having a bad time, but then they'll say something so positive or something so uplifting, and you're kind of like, wow, like that's amazing that they can feel that. Because I was in the same circumstance. I was like, this is the worst, and that's something that I see every day, and it's so inspiring to see the amount of joy people can still have.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your secret superpower?
Operating on 3 hours of sleep.
Oh
That is,
But
wow,
not that often.
that's
Not
an
that
impressive one.
Yeah,
That's
not that often though.
And without caffeine to top it off.
Yeah,
so.
without caffeine. Yeah.
Oh my god! How do you do that? I'm so jealous just to hear that. Even
mean,
even every once in a while, it's still a huge deal.
Maybe you have that special gene because
No,
there's
I don't.
Some
I don't.
called...
The short sleeper. I don't have it. I promise I don't have it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I saw like Trump and Kobe and some other people have it, and I did that too. But I don't have it. I just didn't make enough time to sleep, so now I have to operate on that. But I try to not. I try to get enough sleep going forward.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your ideal 7 to 8 hours, or like what is that?
Like an ideal day, kind of.
Yeah. For the sleep schedule.
Oh, for sleep. Sorry. 7 hours is amazing, but usually it's usually like 5 or 6. But I try to aim for 7, but then it doesn't end up happening. Yeah.
Okay. What's a superpower you wish you had?
Being on time and sleeping 8 hours a night. Sorry, that's so related to what we're talking, but it is something that every day I'm like, dang, like if I just slept a little earlier, I would have, been more rested. But yeah.
Yeah. Got it. That makes sense. Okay. Since you're a content creator, you receive compliments or comments or, people for all the time. What's the worst compliment you've ever received?
The worst compliment? Oh,
Yeah.
so a lot of people now, I mean, I like it, but a lot of people are like, oh, we follow the page. As I start making more dad videos, they're like, oh, we just follow for the dad. You're like, you're all right, but, we just want to see your dad. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll write them. He can take over the page. But yeah, I like it though. It's
Pay
fun.
for your dad. just for,
Yeah,
like,
I should. Yeah, I really should.
Yeah, you should collaborate with him. Okay. Okay, going off of that, what's the best compliment you've received?
Um, just I think even kind of related to what you were saying when people say like, oh, everything you make is like really different, and they like kind of appreciate like the subtlety in it, because I definitely try to intend that when I make stuff, but I don't think anyone picks up. I didn't expect people to pick up on anything, but them noticing that there's like a very, that each video feels very different is something that I like, because I hope to translate those skills to filmmaking. So yeah.
Got it.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. All right, that actually brings us to the end of rapid fire. Next question, not related to rapid fire, but what's been your biggest accomplishment in the last 1 or 2 years?
Biggest accomplishment? I think when I first started med school, I wasn't sure that I would enjoy it or that I wanted to do it, because I knew it'd be like a big time commitment and I had these other things I wanted to do. But then the biggest accomplishment in this last like year, now that I started my 3rd year of med school and I'm seeing patients, I've found that I really enjoy it. So I think the accomplishment is that I'm enjoying all 3 things that I'm pursuing, and I'm working towards, I haven't quite found it yet, but a balance between them where I'm able to kind of give myself fully to each thing for however many hours in the day that I have. But that I'm able to do that, and I'm motivated to do it, and then I'm enjoying it. So that's probably the biggest. Yeah.
That's a huge accomplishment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, congratulations to you on being able to achieve that.
Yeah. And I'm still working on it, but yeah.
In the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
100%. Of course. The one thing that I can, see consistently, one theme actually that across the 3 year, and you mentioned this many times as well, is just people, like the people aspect of it, like, right? Just, it sounds like you enjoy connecting with people, just kind of hearing their, what they're going through and just trying to help them. And in the form of content creation, just kind of putting their stories in the format that other people can relate to. And then in terms of the medicine, just kind of help solve those problems through medicine. So that sounds like something that's kind of coming across common. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you mean kind of how like the medicine stuff is coming across? Is that kind of what you're speaking towards?
Yep.
Yes. So just to speak a little bit more about that, I think as I follow the medical journey more so, I'm able to understand that better, because at first all of that's very foreign. But now that I'm starting to understand it more and I'm starting to see patients and put it into practice, I really enjoy creating like medical content and allowing that to kind of come through. A lot of it is more humorous stuff, because I feel like medicine's so serious. It's nice to just kind of have a light of it sometimes.
Yeah,
I really like it. And I found that I didn't think people would be interested in hearing about that stuff, because it's more specialized knowledge, I guess, that doesn't really make sense when you just bring it up. But people seem to be interested by it. So I'm going to do more of it. But yeah, I like it. And you can share little messages, I guess, in terms of how people can better manage their health, sort of thing. But yeah.
Got it.
Awesome. So one last question here, right? And sorry, I'm going to steal your thunder with that question there, Deven, but what's next for you, right? So you doing a lot of different things, but do you have an idea what's next for you?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I'm working on now is I obviously want to continue with the content creation, making more mental health videos, making more serious things, trying to spread a message, start conversations. But the kind of the bigger project I'm working on is like a screenplay. So every year I write like another script, like a 90-page screenplay, and then usually I just get feedback on it, learn from it, and then kind of toss it out and write another. But then the one I'm working on now, at least if I can kind of crack the story, it's about it's sort of like a thriller, but it's mental illness related, kind of about the stigma around some particular aspects of mental illness in modern day America, and kind of the repercussions of people having those beliefs. But anyway, so that story that I'm currently writing, trying to turn into like a 90-page movie, is like the big project. So if I can complete that and I'm proud of it, and I show it to some producer friends and they think it has like viable potential to be turned into like a movie, then that'd be like the big pursuit. And that's what I would want to put all my time into. And I think that if I can achieve that, it would be entertaining and fun, but it also open a lot of people's eyes to things that they don't necessarily think about, and help a lot of people who do suffer feel a little bit more seen. So they're more open towards receiving treatment and also seeing the potential that they can have a more functional life with a little bit of help.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So are you thinking like big budget film type of route, or are you thinking like indie film, or what do you think?
More indie, but like one of the things that's really inspiring is you see movies like Get Out, which wasn't done on a huge budget, but said something really profound about race in modern day America, but was done through like an entertaining movie lens. Another movie I recently saw was Smile, which didn't have like a giant budget and also spoke a little bit about trauma and kind of how that affects people, but done in an entertaining way. So kind of being inspired by movies like that, I think that I can hopefully try to do something similar, but then at a low budget, just because that is the easiest way to get people to want to help you make it. So yeah, nothing, I don't think anyone would trust me enough to give me a big budget, at least not right now. So if I can get this one made, and the way that I'm kind of writing it is lower budget, if I can do that, then maybe one day in the future I can, ask for a big budget. But yeah, that's...
Well, your approach is actually probably spot on, because in order to encourage people to send more dollars your way, it helps to already have a following of your own. So with the content creation, that kind of creates that platform that even if like you don't have a higher budget film, like you can make that lower budget film a success just through leveraging your community already. Diverting them to watch the film, etc. That builds a track record that, okay, this indie film was a success. You can do bigger and bigger films thereafter. So from that lens, I think you're doing the perfect steps of focusing on content creation as one avenue.
Right. No, thank you. And that's kind of like the stepwise progression, right? You start small, get a little bigger, and by kind of keeping your resources and budget in check, you're able to, it makes you more creative. It forces you to be more creative too. How can I really entertain people without crazy visuals? You know what I mean? Without a chase through the city. How can we keep attention and still forward our message, forward our journey of entertainment? So it's kind of the fun part of it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And then you can also think about like those film festivals, right? Like Sundance and all that.
Right.
That.
Yeah. So like if you have a long script that you feel is worth making, you can make like a little bit of it as like a short film, and then put that into film festivals. And then if it goes further, then you can be producers and kind of take it from there.
Okay, that's awesome.
Cool. All right, Deven, it looks like we're coming to the end of our discussion. Before we wrap up, do you have any recommendations for our listeners? Recommendation could be any piece of media, a book, movie, podcast, TV series, or just any advice in general, any recommendation?
That's a good question. I guess I don't have any particular piece of media or book at the moment. I need to take some time and do some more reading and watching. But in terms of advice, I would just have, I think life can, at least for me, as I get older, as I become more of an adult, everything always feels so busy. You're like, oh man, I've got to do this. I got to do this. But I found that when you take time for something, it's doable to fit a lot into your schedule, and it enriches your life more when you open yourself up more to hearing other stories, to being there for people, to taking the time to like catch up with people. So I think the something that I've been thinking about, at least, is questioning it when you feel, oh, I'm too busy to do this, I'm too busy to do that. Seeing that you have the ability to do a lot more than you feel you can. Yeah, I don't know if that's advice, but that's kind of what I'm feeling at the moment.
That's an observation that a lot of people can benefit from, I would say. But yeah, that's actually really, really helpful. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining the conversation, Deven. It was a really good time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
If you guys are not, you're welcome. Yeah. So if you guys are not already connected to Your Life Unfiltered on Instagram or YouTube, please be sure to give us a subscribe on YouTube and a follow on Instagram. Deven, I did want to give you an opportunity to plug any social media handles that you would like to plug.
Yeah, I just, it's at Deventel, DEVNTELL on whatever platform. I think I'm on most of them.
All right. Well, thank you all and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.